Hi, welcome back to Memory Protection. It's an Apple News podcast set 20 years ago. Today, we're looking back to April 2001. I'm Josh McGrath, and as always,
Josh.
Yeah, Matt?
Josh, you got to come back with me.
Back where?
Back to the future.
Great Scott. Great Scott, Marmoni.
And take your whole music library with you right in your pocket.
Ugh. Hi, welcome back to Memory Protection. It's an Apple News podcast set 20 years ago. Today we're looking back to May 2001.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm Josh McGrath, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host Matt Smith.
Hey, Josh, it's good to see you back in the future here. I've been waiting.
This is the third anniversary of the beginning of Memory Protection.
That's right. This is our year.
This is where our year begins, and we're starting it off a little different.
Yeah, we're skipping April.
We finally took some time, Matt and I, to look at how we do the podcast, and then we said to ourselves, why do we do it a month backwards?
Yeah, so we're skipping April, and we're from here on out we're going to be talking about the month that the podcast actually is released in. So,
in case you're really confused, what that means is when we release this episode on May 1st, we'll be talking about May instead of what we used to do, which is talk about April.
Yeah, it was good timing. And May was jam-packed.
Yeah, we just thought this made a little more sense.
Yep.
Huge, big energy.
We'll get there.
First up, we got some follow-up from, I'd say last episode, but it's more like last season. First in follow-up, we have an email from a friend of the show, Tim. And he says, I got quite behind on episodes. That's unacceptable. In light of macOS 10's release 20 years ago, do you think Apple intentionally cares less about performance/polish of new OS releases and just expects to fix issues as the platform matures? I don't mean that they don't care about performance or bugs, but that maybe pushing the future is prioritized much higher in a kind of perfect is the enemy of progress approach. He goes on to say, I wonder if this is just part of their strategy while we unrealistically expect better of it. That said, software is hard, so maybe this is just a byproduct of that. Still, I don't remember watchOS ever being particularly unstable. Yeah, unless it was battery life related.
Yeah, but watchOS wasn't particularly performant either on those early models.
No,
it wasn't unstable, but it wasn't great.
This is always hard to say because, as like tech-minded people, I think we listen to pundits who are using the betas and going through the worst of the OSs. So it always seems a little worse than it is, I think.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Here's one thing I will say is putting in the context of like something interesting to this show, to our purview is, in this month, we'll talk about this later, but Mac OS 10, 10.01, 10.02, and 10.03 come out. And the interesting part of all three of them is that they're all being released via the internet. And that's a new idea. And Steve Jobs really hits on that each time. Isn't it great how we can iterate so quickly on this new OS? Because we have this, we have the software updater. Well, it made me think about in the time before the internet, you just have to be much more careful, I would assume, and perhaps would put more work into any given release. But with the internet, you're freed up to say, let's put it out in as good a shape as we can get it, but it's not important that it's perfect because we can keep iterating on it, right? And maybe that's a sort of lets you be a little more lax, I think.
Yeah, that's probably true. I think it kind of goes both ways, right? You could potentially treat it as sort of like a given that you'll be able to fix or patch everybody's software because you have the mechanism. And that may sort of allow for the mentality to let's ship this now because we have to, or this is the deadline, as opposed to let's get this right and ship it. I think of old, really like vintage style video games like Atari and NES and any cartridge-based game, I guess, really. Like all that software had to be perfect.
Right.
Because you were going to spend a lot of money to produce physical versions of this software and then ship it out. Even in the age of the internet, like disc-based media on PlayStation and cartridge-based media still stuck around. So the ability, the idea that you could patch a broken game just didn't exist. And that it was like that for computer users up until the early internet, but then they had the ability to go out and seek software updates. And then later on now with OS 10, they can push them out, iOS, watchOS, all that stuff. So like they can move quickly, and maybe that gives them, I guess, I don't know if it is the freedom to do that. Like, yes, I think it is freedom, but I think it also is, maybe that comes at a little bit of a cost, knowing that you have the leeway to do that, to push an update whenever it's ready, or release a buggy OS before it's ready.
I will say, though, that to getting back to Tim's question, like it does sort of feel like a lot of things from Apple take a year to sort of get into full swing these days. And
yeah,
maybe that's always been true to some degree, but I do feel like there's a lot more like orphans and widows, if you will, like typography terms, like just lots of features who get they get announced at WWDC, and then we get to actually see them working by the next WWDC, right?
Yeah, and I think, maybe Apple has sort of told everybody you can expect a new iOS and a new Mac OS every year, but I wonder if like the internal cadence to these releases isn't quite as regimented as we think it is. If you take my meaning, like, yes, they're going to ship an OS 10 or OS 12 this year, right? And
right.
It's OS 12 to us, but it might not be that cut and dry to Apple, I guess, is what I'm thinking.
How do you mean, though?
Just like they'll announce features, right, as an OS 10 or 11 feature, Big Sur feature that maybe won't come out for a year, right? So it's barely a Big Sur feature, I guess is what I'm saying.
Bigger Sur.
Bigger. Biggest Sur. Or like thinking about like Find My. They sort of just took the lid off of Find My after a year of everybody kind of knowing it existed.
Yeah, and I like I said, that was a WWDC thing, right? And I'd say similarly for app tracking transparency. Although that's to be fair, it's a slightly different problem. They need to get developers on the same page with that.
That's also like a political problem too.
That too, but I think it's also telling that we're hearing about it now. Like that stuff has been due from developers for a couple of months now, but we're just sort of feeling the effects of it. 7 weeks out from our own WWDC.
Right. I guess I don't know if I have an answer to this.
Tim has asked an impossible question.
Moving on. I think the only thing to sort of like wrap this up would be like, it's kind of hard to know what Apple cares about. Like, I think maybe the sort of hierarchy of priorities for them to hit with dealing with existing software, dealing with writing software that works on hardware that is 10 years old, as well as hardware that is yet to come out. I think that, and dealing with 3 different or distinct software platforms in the middle of a hardware transition. Like, I think that creates this sort of like hierarchy of maybe just stressors that Apple can't compensate for. And I think knowing that this hardware transition has been in the works for a number of years, and everybody kind of thought it was, I guess everybody, I'm thinking of myself, I didn't think it was going to be happening last year. And I think it caught some people by surprise. Like, you can kind of see, and I think we'll talk about this more today, but like Apple unveiled some new stuff this week that clearly like a boatload of time and thought went into. And I just wonder if the dependency chain for all of this stuff is just stretched so thin.
Well, yes, I think it's that. I think like what you're saying is that every product that Apple makes has been worked on for 3 to 4 years.
Yeah. Like
2 years, the minimum, I'd say. Mm-hmm. So that's just, it's hard to steer that ship, right? It's easy to,
sure.
You could block a canal with that ship. But I think there's on the other end of the spectrum, I think people have very long but imperfect memories. So it's a sort of a hearts and minds game of it's what's the word? It's a reputation problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't that everything just worked in the Apple ecosystem at one point. It was that enough things worked.
Right. And it did those jobs better than other PCs.
And then enough things didn't just work that became sort of a joke, right?
Sure.
And these things have such a, especially for non-pundits, not people who are not following it very closely, they say Apple, I like their phones, but aren't their keyboards bad?
Right.
And it's like, well, or like I heard that there was something wrong with the laptops. Like yeah, that was like 2 years ago.
Right.
You could still buy one though. But I do feel like that's part of the problem is like that they have such a protracted development cycle because that's just how things work. And I've always gotten the feeling that it would be quite frustrating to try to address any one problem that people have with the products.
Yeah.
Although one would say that a quote unquote simple solution would just be do a better job. But
I mean that's easy.
That's a ridiculous thing to say.
That's easy to say. I mean,
Right.
It's super easy to say from somebody on the outside that is
Right.
sort of like frustrated using technology and not understanding that and I think that nothing against people that don't care or don't understand how this stuff works. But at the same time, like thinking about this sort of like monumental effort to, in my opinion, is like they're going to unify this set of platforms. It is going to be a single thing pretty soon.
Perhaps.
And I mean, they just put an M1 in the iPad. Like, I think that's happening.
We could talk about that.
Talk about it. But just thinking about like what's going on behind the scenes, like what is going on behind the scenes, there is clearly some desire to move Apple into a direction where they like their chips, they make their chips, they make their software, they make their hardware, and like I think the idea is that, I guess in my brain, like things are going to get easier for them once they can do all of these things, once they control the entire stack, right? They have
perhaps.
we know this, instead of having to support 10 years worth of x86 architectures and revisions at these different processes and chipsets and all this stuff, like we can support 10 years of Apple M1 chips or A chips. And we know everything because we made everything.
Right.
We don't have to think about somebody else's architecture. It's ours, right? We know everything about it.
No more power hungry chips.
Power sippy chips.
Here's the thing. Here's what they have to balance. Here's their impossible task is they have to say, let's stay ahead of the curve, technologically speaking. Let's give people exactly what they want.
Yeah.
And let's also give people things they didn't expect.
Like side loading apps.
Or the iPhone, or the iPod.
Sure.
God love them. They keep trying. We'll see how VR goes. But it is, when you think about it, like the development process to do all of that is so long. It's daunting.
Yeah.
But I think the way you thread that needle is to just get as many wins as possible.
Sure.
Without letting yourself get too complacent with just doing what people want. Right.
Right.
Because like it is nice that they fixed the laptops, but some of the reports we've heard about like where they're going with it, it's like, how about more of the same from 2015? It's like, well, those were good laptops, like no doubt, but
those are pro features.
Like this is the impossible thing I'm asking for you, Apple, is don't disappoint me, but also don't do exactly what I say.
Sure.
Like, give me something new.
And I think this week showed us that they can still at least think about doing that.
I agree. I think the iMacs are a great indication that they still know how to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I was not asking for MagSafe on my iMac.
No.
I didn't know one might want that.
Right. I didn't know I didn't want an Apple logo on the front of my iMac.
I kind of do.
You do not want that?
I'm kind of sad that they took it out.
I've been getting used to it. I'm into it now.
You put tape over yours.
Yeah.
You marked it out with a Sharpie.
Just one of those silver gel pens.
It's real punk. All right. Well, that was follow up.
That was our little new mini segment, catching up with Tim.
Catching up. Cooking with Tim. Cooking it up with. We'll workshop it. Yes, it was Tim Cook, friend of the show.
That'd be amazing. He's asking us what we think about his company's process. What do you think about
it? I thought you looked great, by the way, Tim.
Especially when you tore the younger version of your own face off.
Did you see him though? He's ripped. COVID has been kind to Tim. Next, a new segment, an old segment.
Yeah, what are we calling it now?
Okay.
I put a new title in here, but I don't know if it's
I saw your title and I was like, it gave me I did a responsible chuckle.
Good.
But I do not think that's it.
I don't know, man. I talk a lot about Shenmue on this program. And that's where QTE started.
I know. I was like, QuickTime. Was there such thing as a QuickTime? And then I was like, oh, I see. It's too video game focused.
No, because it's QuickTime.
I know. But we don't want to always.
All right.
I was thinking, I don't have like I do not have answers that are as snappy as yours.
Back to the Redmond Minute, huh?
I was thinking time machine backup.
QuickTime machine. Ooh, time machine backup.
Or time capsule. It's the only other. Those are all Apple products, right?
What's time capsule?
That was the router that had a hard drive in it.
Oh yeah, okay. No, let's not do that one.
Time machine backup.
Time machine backup.
It's too wordy.
I think QuickTime machine.
QuickTime machine.
Yeah, what do you think of that?
We're gonna hop in the what is the usage?
I mean, it's a time machine where we go back and look very.
I know,
briefly
but use it in an English sentence. Like
I'm gonna hop in the QuickTime machine. To get some context on these old Apple events.
We're hopping in the QuickTime machine. Okay. Yeah. Okay. It's growing on me.
Yeah, it's time to hop into the QuickTime machine.
Oh God, it's growing on me. This alien technology.
Gross. First item.
Wait, we gotta actually say it now. All right. Well, we're moving on to a segment formerly known as Hot Cocoa. If you didn't listen to the last episode, we realized that we had accidentally been infringing on the Mac Observer's prior claim to that almost exact same usage.
Yep. So we're renaming this segment to QuickTime Machine.
So come with us into the QuickTime machine.
First item on our QuickTime Machine journey, Mac OS X gets some updates. Between April 16th and May 9th, 2001, Apple releases 10.0.1, 10.0.2, and 10.0.3.
01 is it's performance and stability fixes with better support for USB devices.
Everything feels snappy now. OS X is fixed.
OS X. Why didn't they just wait a few weeks?
They didn't wait because they can just push out updates anytime now.
Anytime. I would actually love it if they just had sort of a continuous update cycle.
Yeah, don't tell me. Just let me read the change log when I want to.
I love a good change log. Things got even snappier in 02, along with updates to iTunes and the addition of CD burning, because that wasn't in there.
Seems like that was a pretty good update for people.
Pretty good update for those computers that they sold on the strength of CD burning.
Power to burn.
Now.
Asterisk. Power to burn later.
And then in 03, this one's a bit of a mystery, but it, quote, ensures full visibility of file lists in directories that contain a large number of items. So I believe the problem here was that the Finder was not always showing every file in a huge directory.
Right. And then a surprise update. Internet Explorer 5.1.1.
I love to get on the web. Was
released via Apple's software update mechanism.
It's like Safari now.
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting that they updated Microsoft's thing. And I guess it makes sense because it came with the OS. So maybe they had some hooks in there. But I just thought that was an interesting point that they're updating third-party software on their own first-party platform.
But Apple wasn't done yet. That's right. They also released QuickTime 5 and QuickTime Streaming Server 3 for both Mac OS 9 and Windows.
Yeah. So QuickTime 5 was previously available in OS 10. They just had never released it to OS 9.
Right.
And, in Windows.
Of course, Apple's not the only one making software.
No. BB Edit.
It doesn't suck.
Beloved software coding app finally comes to OS 10.
Just for some context, BB Edit was first released in 1992, and it's still kicking today on version 13, which was released in May 2021.
Have you ever used BB Edit?
Maybe once or twice. No, I came up in the Sublime Text and the its precursor, which somehow I don't remember the name of. It's Text Bundle.
It's got the flower, right, for the icon.
Text Expander.
No.
TM Bundle. Is the name of
TextMate.
TextMate. TextMate. Thank you. TM Bundle is the name of the style extension. Yes. Thank you. The TextMate Sublime text. Well, it's not quite a war, but that era of those are my text. Not anymore, but so I sort of missed BB Edit. Not that you could miss it. I just never got into it.
I think BB, if you found BB Edit in the classic Mac days, you might still be using it. But if you missed it, there were newer, more enticing options available. And again, that's not to say that BB Edit is bad by any stretch. It's just not, I think, what either of us kind of came up writing software with.
Next, a bit of sad news.
Yeah, Douglas Adams passed away May 11th, 2001. Douglas Adams, famous author of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I believe he also wrote for Doctor Who. Just a funny, irreverent...
Fantastic work. Hitchhiker's Guide and its many sequels are a must-read.
I have the compilation of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy books that my dad bought me in the bargain bin at Stop and Shop in 1990-something, before all the books were finished.
Oh, before they were finished.
I think the last book wasn't released at the point in which I got this compilation.
I have the compilation with the green alien on the front.
Yeah, that's what I have. I don't think all of the books. Maybe you got a later version of it.
I just realized I got that book now at this time period.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. It would have been 2000 or 2001 because I got it in 6th grade.
Oh wow.
Yeah. There was like a reading list. We had to read a book, but we got to pick which one it was. And this was on there. And I remember my mom said, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Isn't that kind of racy? I'm like, well, no, they wouldn't have suggested it otherwise. Me not knowing what it was. And she got it for me. We went to Bookland, and I got the huge, it's the full compilation. And, it was the one that was racy. But, great book, changed my life. It's so funny. I didn't think about that until now, that I would have gotten it pretty much exactly 20 years ago.
Nice.
Yeah.
Maybe you got it on May 11th, 2001.
Maybe. That's weird. I wouldn't even know. I didn't know anything about him.
Yeah. Thinking about other things that expire.
No. Douglas Adams might appreciate that joke.
Yeah, I know he would have. Mac OS X beta expires May 15th, 2001.
Matt, what does that mean?
I think that it means that if you try to install the beta after May 15th, 2001, it's going to say, oh, you can't do that anymore. But then if you set your computer's clock back to May 14th, it will let you do that.
Just keep setting it back.
Just keep setting it back. No network time clock setting for me.
For all those people who just really got to use the beta.
Like us?
Huh. Wow. Another great app comes to OS X.
Do you like, Josh, let me ask you a question. Do you like files?
I do, although sometimes I wonder where did they come from?
Well, you have to be a professional, and 2, you make them.
If only there were some sort of some kind of utility for a professional who needed to make files. Yes, that's right. FileMaker Pro comes to Mac OS X. As we said earlier, the beginning of every memory protection season, if you will, is in May. And this coincides with WWDC, no matter how you slice it. But we're in a bit of an awkward position this year because, how do I put this, Matt?
Apple just blew it out. This is a barn burner of a WWDC. This is going to be a 3-4 part episode, everybody. Just hold on to your hats because we got content for months.
Basically, Avi drank a lot of coffee and he just grabbed the mic and said, no, let me do it. Let me do this one, Steve.
Let me do this, WWDC. So long story short, there's not a lot for us here at WWDC.
No, it's maybe this is more a byproduct of the timing. Mac OS X has just come out in somewhat of a scramble, and I last month I had theorized maybe they'd have some new stuff to talk to us about, but there's really not much.
No, they're really just evangelizing the platform here, and I think it's not a bad strategy, given that you've just released a gigantic operating system that's going to drive the future of Mac development for the next 20 years. But it doesn't make for a good podcast. So they talk about the benefits of OS X. They do have one announcement, and that is that Apple will no longer be selling cathode ray tube based displays, and that they will be announcing a new 17-inch LCD studio display, but it's not coming out till June. And everything else is really just kind of, here's why you want to use OS X. Avi does have a fun joke. He says, we built Mac OS X hoping that it will last 15 to 20 years. I hope it does. I can't go through this again. And it did.
It did. And you didn't have to. Speaking of people who don't have to worry about Apple software anymore, Scott Forstall heroically did a demo of making a Cocoa app, apparently with 101 fever.
That sucks.
Yeah. All right, well, so that's basically it for WWDC, sadly. But luckily, we do have another event to talk about.
Steve's Super Spreader event.
That's right. Steve packed in all those. Steve packed in a bunch of journalists into town hall. It's probably how Scott Forstall got sick.
Yeah, for sure. This is only a couple weeks later.
Sorry,
or a couple weeks earlier, rather. With WWDC is a few weeks after this event.
This is this event has a title, although what would we call it today? It's a
town hall.
It's a town hall meeting. It's but what is it? It's not a press release. It's a press event. Mm-hmm. You know, this is sort of a typical spring Apple event. I'd say the one thing that differentiates it to me, though, is it's so close to WWDC. Weirdly close. They've
got to put these. I think we'll talk about it a little bit, but there's a specific reason why they're releasing this.
Like this event is May 1st and WWDC is May 21st.
Yeah, but thinking about the fiscal year for education departments, and
I'm thinking about the fiscal
year. Yeah, Josh, are you thinking about the fiscal year? Well, how's your bottom line looking?
Q1, Q2, Q3, all the great Qs. I'm always don't worry about it.
You're so fiscal.
I'm fiscally responsible.
Yeah,
that's
what I think.
I bought 23,000 iBooks.
So today we're talking about iBooks and. Yes. Apple's big push for iBooks into the education market.
So this event is called Your Life to Go. Well, that's the theme of the event. And the big headlining product, of course, as Matt's saying, is the iBook. Not just any iBook.
The iBook.
This iBook.
Josh's iBook.
Unplugged it. I'll be right back.
Did the battery die?
Not yet. It's still going.
Quick.
All right, we're safe. Whew. So after a quick moment where Steve talks about CD burning coming to OS X, he just gets right into it. Announces starts by describing the stats of the new iBook without showing us what it looks like.
Except for the I/O panel, we do get to see that little tidbit. This is kind of by the time we actually see it, everybody's very quiet about everything because this is a small room. No claps, no cheers.
Just journalists, I think.
Yeah.
Just stone cold journos. Dance for us, Jobs.
Yeah, and Steve is visibly has a cold or is sick.
He's pretty low. He's pretty low energy for this one.
This is a pretty low key event. So Steve's on stage and he's talking about the new features, and this is the visual language here. Like this iBook is a pretty big departure from the pre-existing iBook, the clamshell, colorful iBook that we've seen up until now.
Yes.
And looking back, we essentially started this podcast talking about the iBook. It was first announced right around when we started. It might have been the first episode.
iBooks are very important to memory protection.
They are the only vintage Macs we own.
Yes, in fact, the Macs that Matt and I have used to test out Mac OS 9 and versions of OS 10 are these, or at least mine is this iBook that was released during this
exact iBook that Steve is holding up. Josh now holds in his hands.
Yeah, this iBook's worth tens of thousands of dollars.
It's $30, Josh.
The reason it smells so bad is because of Steve's stinky hand.
We could talk about that. Did you ever get a new keyboard?
No, I did, but it didn't matter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
In the long run, it didn't matter for me either because I can now smell it.
In case you don't understand what we're talking about, these iBooks had a sort of an aging problem where they get a sort of distinctive musk, which I think smells like cigarettes.
I think it smells like body odor. Hang on. Let me smell it.
Let us describe to you in this audio format.
Yeah, I don't know. The new one I have doesn't quite smell as bad. I can get a whiff of it. But.
Okay, I see what you're talking about. It's like a smoker has been out for a run.
Yes, that's right.
But it's like a healthy sweat.
But with the cigarette.
But with the cigarettes. Yeah.
Here's where we put the Seinfeld meme into the episode. Right?
Yes, they're smelly, but you know what? They're good computers.
They're great.
Like, hey, this is a 20-year-old computer. I just accidentally unplugged it. It was fine. It lasted. Still a little juice in there.
Battery still works.
Yes. What is the visual difference with these computers?
So the old ones, they look like clams. They opened up like a clam, kind of had the clam shape, had a little handle on them. Colorful,
bright
had
colors,
a nice band of color. Apple logo is in color. These, it's all transparent and white and a little bit of silvery gray. It's kind of bringing it into the design language of the PowerBooks. They pulled some of that language in there. And I think...
it's a small white box with rounded corners.
Yeah, pretty...
classic, iconic look.
Yeah, but I think tame in comparison to the design of the iMacs and the previous gen iBooks.
Yes, I think this is the beginning of many trends, but one is the more and more focus on thin and light, right?
Yes.
Steve takes some time. He takes a Dell laptop out. This is a real chunker, and this is when he does the reveal. He takes out the iBook, and it's a pretty stark difference.
Yeah, but I don't know what that comparison is. Like 20 years on, is that a consumer level education grade big chungus that he's got there, or is it? Is it something else?
Who knows I don't know if it was a fair comparison, but it's good to just the facts, ma'am. It's a 4.9 pound computer, which was 30% lighter than the previous, and it's like what's the height on it?
It's 1.5 inches.
1.5 inches. Yeah. So it is. I think undeniably, at the very least, it's a good compare to the old iBook.
Right.
And it takes up about half the volume of the clamshell, apparently.
Yep.
Which is not a surprise. The clamshell is, because of its industrial design, it does obviously would take up a lot of space.
Right. And Steve sort of makes the case that this iBook, while being smaller and lighter,
I love this,
and having a high resolution screen, it's wireless ready, still sort of like beats the competition.
Well, I love the screen because it's like that's a line from today. Because of the new technology, we were able to make the device smaller while making the screen bigger.
Yeah, we heard that this week.
Yeah.
Also, Steve coins a new phrase, 10:7 display.
Is that a thing?
No.
Nope.
It's driving me crazy. That was a Steve thing. It's a beautiful new 10:7 display.
It's got everything you want. It's got a FireWire. It's got Ethernet. It's got a 500 megahertz G3.
It'll run OS 10 like a dream.
Or OS 9.
Yeah, keep running OS 9.
It might run both.
Ready? Yeah. Digital hub ready. So Steve makes the case that this is the perfect device for your new digital hub. I think the FireWire port being the reason why. You can also configure this with a CD-ROM, DVD-ROM, or a CDRW.
Combo drive.
Or the CDRW/DVD-ROM. So you can kind of make this as lean or as powerful as you want within the constraints of this 10:7.
I think these are great little machines, and I think they became quite popular. Although I'm pretty biased for a reason I'll get into later.
All right. Yeah, I had the second. I bought the second generation iBook when I was in grad school because I was looking for a machine to do some work on while I was at home. And while I treated it pretty roughly and it didn't last as long as I'd hoped it would, it was a pretty solid machine. I was really happy with it at the time. And I think now kind of coming back to these, I have not been using this machine daily for the last couple of years, but I think we've had these for a little over a year now, and they've been pretty solid machines. They've held up really well.
Yeah, I'm impressed, especially running, well, unfortunately, for better or worse, running OS 9. It's snappy.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. This is probably the best OS 9 will ever run, except for on a G4. But even then, I don't think it needs a G4 to run.
Should get some G4s.
I've got one.
You do?
I've got a Mac Mini G4.
You do? Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was on my little like vintage Mac buying spree. I bought one of those too.
I should look into what we need next, and I'll get one of those.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
There's a great moment in this keynote. It's very weird. So Steve waves his hand, and then out of the shadows come a bunch of Apple employees, and they take the iBooks out of their violin cases and or bags, I mean, and Steve says, "All right, we're gonna give you a chance to look at these later, but why don't you look at them right now?" And they hand one iBook down each aisle.
Yeah, it was kind of weird.
And Steve just sort of stands there and watches, and as they what they're supposed to do is they're supposed to just look at it for a bit and then hand it to the next person. And
there's a lot of people that are like all touching one at the same time.
Yeah. And they're just like turning around, and like it's very like free form. People are asking Steve questions, and he's being very polite and answering. And
then somebody asks him about colors.
Yeah, you're looking at him.
So this is sort of a big shift for Apple. This is the start of the shift for Apple. Apple's Pro line's always been pretty restrained.
Monochrome,
right? We've got,
yeah, more or less.
Yeah, or black, business black. But now we've got sort of this titanium PowerBook. But now we're into this new sort of student grade, consumer level iBook. And they've cut the colors out of it completely. They've changed the design. They've cut the colors out. And this is sort of the start of, and I think we did talk about this. We talked about this in January when they released the Titanium PowerBook, but the Titanium PowerBook really sort of set the stage for their industrial design language for now, and up until now even.
We'll get one more iteration of the G3 iMacs in the summer with the colors we're used to, but that's also the end of color in that line.
Yeah, the only color that comes out in that iteration is indigo. So
there'll be no more colorful iMacs until now. 20 years later, color returns.
Yeah, and I think that's really interesting that Apple built its sort of comeback on this idea that computing could be fun.
Right.
And now here we are. This is the sort of the start of the third year of memory protection. They came out with the iMac in 1998. So what, 3 years later, they've sort of gotten everybody's attention again and are sort of backing away from that.
Yeah. No, they're starting this new trend. Computing is classy, right?
Right. Or classy. Yeah, I think that's right. High class, classy,
premium materials. That's becomes the order of the day for the next 20 years, more or less, I'd say. With a few exceptions here and there, your iPhones C. That's it. Other than that, there hasn't been much. There's been colors, and there's been some very muted colors, I'd say. And I would say, to be fair, the new iMac colors are not. They're not the G3s. But I'd say they're much bolder than you would expect from.
I was going to say the back of those computers pretty bold. I think we are missing a little bit here, and that is the iPod. The iPod line gets super colorful.
Yes. Sorry, that's an obvious omission.
But I think what we're talking about here is computers explicitly.
But even the early iPod is like the first iPods of most lines are just it's the white ones, or there's even like the black Nano.
Right, and this computer looks like an iPod. Like it looks like an iPod. Like if you think about it, like you can see that the iPod and this computer were designed at the same time.
It's like one guy is designing all this stuff.
Jesus Christ!
And now that he's gone, the computers are colorful again.
Yep. I love it. Which is kind of strange because wasn't he the colorful guy in the beginning?
Yeah. Well, you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself
become the villain. I think Apple found its footing, right? We've seen the newest iteration of iMacs notwithstanding Blue Dalmatian and Flower Power, but like the last iteration, all of these colors, they were bright, they were colorful candy colors before. They moved them into these sort of like professional colors, and now we're in much less saturated. And now we're moving into monotones, right? We're going to see white consumer computers and metal pro computers from here on out. Like once the new G4 iMac comes out, once the G5 comes out, like it's metal and polycarbonate, and that lasts for, the metal lasts forever. That's still happening, and the polycarbonate lasts for another 8 years or so.
Yeah,
even longer than that, because the G4 iMacs were, or the G5 iMacs were polycarbonate.
Right. Yes. Yeah, you're right. They also had that way.
So like Apple, and I think during this time we'll see these iMacs, or iMacs in general, sort of become synonymous with high end. And I think some of this is product placements, and some of this is just sort of the culture changing. Like people need to use computers to run their businesses. So when you go into a high-end business, what kind of computer do you want to see? A beige box, or do you want to see a fancy-looking metal iMac? And I'd say that most people would say, yeah, I want this cool iMac to represent my business. So I think that served them really well for a while.
I'm looking at this iBook, and I'm just looking at the design of it, and it really still holds up.
It does.
I think as fun as the colorful plastic designs are for the various products, they're very much of a time. Mm-hmm. And the white polycarbonate, although in places like the G5 iMac are very clearly of a time, I'd say something like this iBook, because it's so minimalist, I think it could still work today as a design language. I think they could bring it back, honestly.
I agree. And
I don't think they will for some time if they do, but I think it still holds a lot of aesthetic value.
Yeah.
In a way that's, I think maybe timeless is putting too fine a point on it, but it's definitely very flexible.
There's something that I think Apple could come back to here, right? And thinking about what is the 2022 version of this computer look like, and it's probably less than half an inch thin.
I know, I'm trying to visualize like a MacBook Air with this design.
Right. And do they use, instead of polycarbonate, do they then use this tempered glass they're using on the iMacs, which would be amazing to look at, but maybe not practical?
Oh, God. Yeah.
Or is it just like this polished aluminum that they can get going now? They just silver or figuring out how to get it white or whatever it is.
White aluminum. That's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
Huh.
Show me some white aluminum, Apple.
Now, of course, while they're marking a line in the sand design-wise with these computers, Steve is also trying to reassert Apple as a player in the education field.
Boy, do they have something for us today.
Yeah, buddy. So Steve gives a spiel about how important education is to them, and then he brings up a special guest.
It's your dad.
It's my dad. Yes, my dad, Dr. Mark Edwards, superintendent of Henrico County School and Districts from Virginia. So he brings up the superintendent to talk about a big deal.
Yeah, Apple received an order for 23,000 iBooks from the Henrico County Public Schools in Richmond, Virginia.
Now, this segment is it's fine, it's a marketing segment, but it comes up to say some nice things about bridging the digital divide and getting laptops into the hands of kids. It's really great. But when Steve got into the segment, I started getting really excited because it kind of it threw me back in time. Can you guess why, Matt?
Because Maine placed an order for a boatload of Apple laptops for its middle school students, right?
That's right. Around this time, in 2001, there was a then governor, now Senator Angus King, had a huge surplus on his hands. And he said, let's buy some laptops.
No, let's buy rice and beans.
Let's buy rice and beans. That's where all the rice and bean money went. That's why they had
Guess
such a
so.
huge surplus, because they didn't buy the rice.
It's that Y2K rice and beans surplus.
So I would say very forward-looking move. He got the ball rolling on the main laptop initiative, and by
Man, Angus King seemed like such a dope governor.
yes, I'm a big fan.
He's still out there today.
Yeah, we're basically neighbors.
Maine, famously not a big place.
Yeah, so like I said earlier, I implied I'm a little biased towards this program for two reasons. I like the guy, and also I like the program because I was in the very, very first class of Maine 7th graders who got a laptop.
I believe my sister-in-law is also among this class. She also got a laptop around this time too.
And it was these iBooks.
Yeah.
Not this iteration. This would have been I want to say, the mid-2002 update of the model, but it's pretty much the same. It's the exact same industrial design.
Yeah. Nice.
Earlier in the show, I implied that my first Mac was a 2008 MacBook Pro. And I'll say that's the first Mac I owned. Mm-hmm. But doing the research on this, I realized, no, this was the first Mac I ever could call my own in some fashion.
That's awesome. Back to the Mac.
I love these computers. I really got a lot of use out of them as a kid. Mm-hmm. I used to use this program called Microworlds. Mm-hmm. You know about that?
No.
Microworlds is it's based on the Logo programming language. Sort of I don't know how involved he was in Microworlds, but Seymour Papert developed Logo. Seymour Papert's a famous child education, a big proponent of using computers in child education. In fact, I believe he was involved in the main technology initiative to some degree.
Oh, okay.
But all these computers had Microworlds installed on them, and it was like a way to teach kids how to code. Mm-hmm. And you would code these little animations. Like, you ever seen like someone coding a turtle to move back in the day?
No.
Writing some code to make a little sprite of a turtle.
Pretty specific.
It's to me, it's a very iconic image.
If anybody else has seen somebody code a sprite of a turtle to move, right in.
But I would do things like I would animate like scenes from The Hobbit.
Okay.
With my own little sprites I'd made. This is basically what I'm saying is this is what got me started.
Yeah.
I have a lot of love for these computers, and I never really thought about it when you picked these up for us, but these are the same ones, and I love them even more now.
One thought I had as we were talking about this school initiatives is that I wonder if Apple ditched the color schemes because they were making a concentrated push into the education market. And if they sold a set of school districts a bunch of laptops with different specifications and different colors, the kids would fight over which color they wanted.
I want the green one.
I want the gray one.
I think I would have fought for the green one, although I've always been partial to the orange iBook.
I'm going to go out and say it. Those original iBooks, not great.
No?
No.
Big surprise.
They're super heavy. They're just bulky as hell. The handle, pretty useful. I'll give it to them for the handle. But they're not great looking computers. I don't think they hold up very well, industrial design wise.
I've never seen one in person. Well, okay, I have seen one in person, but it's been a while.
And like their transparency is not like, it's like that. It's like foggy, like everything is, you can kind of see the components behind everything, but it's still like, it just looks, the whole design is pretty muddy.
I've been re-listening to the Becoming Steve Jobs book. Mm-hmm. And
is that the Walter Isaacson one?
No, it's the good one.
Oh, I don't know that one.
And the author is telling an anecdote about the cinema display, the first one. Mm-hmm. And he's saying like it was a beautiful display, but it had a tendency because of some of the materials inside that ants would get in there, but they couldn't get out. So he had all these dead ants at the bottom of his CRT.
Oh my God, that's so gross. Wait, the studio display? Like the one I had?
Yeah, the studio, I think. It was either the studio or the flat panel. I can't remember.
Because the flat ones, I think, had opaque.
Maybe it was in the legs, right? Because they had the little feet.
Oh, yeah, the flat panel had the feet. That's super gross.
All right, well, that's going to do it for May 2001. If you would like to answer any of the questions that we asked during the show, you can tweet at us using the handle @MemProShow, or You could send us an email. Boot up Hotmail. Boot up. What's a good mail pull?
Juno.
Boot up Juno. Send us a message at memoryprotectionshow@gmail.com. Once you've updated Internet Explorer, go to memoryprotection.show to see the show notes. Or, of course, they'll be in your podcatcher of choice. Can't wait to charge you a subscription for that.
I was going to say coming soon to Apple Podcasts Premium Plus program. Can't
wait to do it.
Can't wait to take your money. It's time for recommendations, where Josh and Matt recommend some stuff we thought was cool from long ago.
Here we go.
So this month...
No. Welcome to recommendations. Matt and I...
Welcome to recommendations.
Matt and I open your eyes to the wonderful world of culture from 20 years ago. That bastion of high art, the 2000s.
Yep. This is about the time where the Sega Dreamcast is dying on the vine. I believe Sega has announced that we're out of money. We're no longer going to be making hardware. We're just going to be in the business of making and publishing software. So sorry about your luck. You can't get your $200 back. Dreamcast is dead.
You killed Sonic, you bastard.
But it's not quite dead yet. We've got some games still coming out, and one of the big publishers for the Dreamcast was Capcom. You may know Capcom as the developer of games such as Mega Man and Street Fighter. I'm recommending Mega Man today.
Which one?
No.
For the Nintendo.
I'm not recommending Mega Man. I'm recommending a game called Giggle Wing 2. And this is a bullet hell shooter made by Capcom. I don't know who developed it. Takumi. And it was originally published on Sega's Naomi arcade system, which is why it came to Dreamcast. Because the Dreamcast, for those of you who have not been listening to our recommendations, was basically a Sega Naomi arcade board made into a consumer video game console. So it made porting these arcade games super easy. So Giggle Wing 2, one of those. And these ports sometimes were like super lame. It's just like press start to insert coin, right?
Yeah, you sent me one the other day that was just that. It was actually was it supposed to be a Dreamcast game, but they revived it as a arcade game.
Oh,
right?
the Dolphin Blue?
Yeah, Dolphin Blue. But I love that the video. It had the insert coin in it. Yeah.
Yeah. So the successor to the Dreamcast was called the Artemis Wave, which was developed by Sega and the Sammy Corporation as arcade-only hardware. And what Josh is talking about is that some enterprising developers ported these Artemis Wave games back to the Dreamcast so that you can run them on Dreamcast hardware. So cool. It's wicked cool. Dolphin Blue was a lot of fun.
Did you get that running?
I did. I actually got it running on my my Android tablet via emulation, and I played through the whole thing. It was awesome.
You got to get that running on the real thing, but
yeah, I don't have it set up right now.
Maybe do you need a combo drive?
No,
no,
because I have an SD card reader for the Dreamcast now, so I can just jam an ISO on there.
What's your excuse then?
I don't like playing video games in front of the TV anymore.
Oh, because of your old eyes. I got you.
Yeah, I gotta be close.
Got to use your Fire tablet.
Hey, I say what you will. This thing has played everything I wanted to play on it. So.
Oh yeah.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. You got Karnov.
I could put Karnov on there if I wanted to play Karnov. Yeah.
Well, all right, you showed me.
That game sucks, dude.
Oh man, don't let Aaron hear you say that.
Well, maybe you should edit that out until I actually play Karnov again, because it's
No,
probably
I'm
been
leaving it in.
25 years. Anyway, Giggle Wing 2 is like super good. Like it's got this like, stupid story. But what I remember is like the 3D graphics, like really good for the time. And the soundtrack is just incredible. It's like a full orchestra playing the soundtrack to this game. And it makes it feel so distinct and like epic in a way that other like shoot 'em up games never felt. And I still haven't felt that. And I don't play many of those games, so they may exist. I always come back to Giggle Wing 2, and I played it periodically. It's great.
Totally. This looks great. I'd play this.
Hey, you've got a Dreamcast.
I don't have an SD reader. I don't have a combo drive either. So I don't know. I'm going to make a disc.
Dang.
I should probably play Sonic Adventure, though.
At least, at the very least, try that first level out. It's
I'm going to get my chows, grow some chows.
Yeah, get your chow garden going.
I went to our friend's house. We'll cut this shit up, but he had a game.
You're not going to cut my Karnov trash talk out, but you're going to cut the chow talk out?
Yeah. We got to leave the Karnov in for the drama.
All right, so what do you got, Josh? Now that we've waxed poetic about the Sega Dreamcast once again.
Maybe for the last time.
Oh, almost certainly not.
I'm going to class this joint up and bring a book.
Oh.
No, okay. So I'm bringing a book that came out in April of 2001, which I think counts.
That counts.
This is Artemis Fowl by Ian Colfer.
No, I've never read any of these books.
Okay. Well, it doesn't surprise me. They're middle grade books. So you were not in the right. You're a little old for them at that time.
Well, I was sort of reading all the Harry Potter books at this point, but that was maybe because it was more of a phenomenon than.
Yeah, and these were a sort of a phenomenon, although I'd say to a much smaller degree. And I'd say, yeah, probably the main reason most people haven't read them is because they did live in the shadow of Harry Potter at that time. The books are, as described by the author, Die Hard with Fairies.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it is. I would go on to add that, at least with the first book, it's a Die Hard with Fairies if the main character was Hans Gruber.
Wait.
So Artemis Fowl is
Do you mean Bill Clay?
Bill Clay?
That's who Hans Gruber pretends.
Oh, God. Don't shoot me.
What's your name? Bill Clay?
Bill Clay. I shot a kid.
What a good movie.
So good. I watched it recently. I'll cut the shit out. Not the Karnov, though. Artemis Fowl, the eponymous main character, is a 12-year-old criminal mastermind.
Is he the Hans Gruber?
Yes. He's that's why I say it's sort of like if Hans Gruber was the main character. He's much more sympathetic than Hans Gruber, but
sure.
But the rest of it is there. There's fairy cops and there's heists and hostage situations.
And they shoot a kid.
They want to. Basic premise is that Artemis is the Fowls are a crime family that have sort of fallen from grace, and Artemis is trying to restore the family wealth. And he stumbles upon a sort of a secret world of fairies who are think of like the fae folk, especially of Irish and Celtic mythology. They've all been driven underground by humanity, but are nonetheless they're much more advanced than humans. They have like science fiction technology.
Okay.
Which makes it all more fun when Artemis, a lowly human, just keeps outsmarting them at every turn. Oh. It's very much a phrase I like for these kinds of books is a competence porn. Like, it's just fun to watch someone who's very good at something, or especially if they're like smartly, they're one step ahead.
Sure.
But, it's a middle grade book. It's for kids. It's very, very family friendly. A lot of fun. They made a very terrible live action remake last year.
I heard it was bad.
Yeah, they changed a bunch of stuff. I haven't watched it, so I can't. I should say disclaimer. I have not watched it, so I don't know if it's actually bad, but I did not hear good things. Ian Colfer, he He did one of those things where he finished writing a book series for an author who died. I don't remember which one though.
Douglas Adams.
You know, I'm gonna check that because that'd be a good full circle thing.
That'd be pretty great.
It may have been that. It might have been him.
There was an unfinished book, right?
Oh, it was. It was.
Really?
Okay, so the first 5 novels in the Hitchhiker's Guide trilogy were written by Douglas Adams. And, okay, so I'm just quoting straight from Wikipedia here. Adams had intended to add to the series, agreeing that the end of the 5th book was very bleak. Already a fan of the series, Colfer called the opportunity like suddenly being offered the superpower of your choice. Yeah, so he got the opportunity to finish out, maybe it looks like a partially written book.
Is this the and another thing?
Might be. Yeah. So, yeah, that's great.
What a way to end the episode.
Yeah. I do want to say, just to round this out, that I watched 3 films of this era lately.
Yeah.
And then I watched Charlie's Angels,
Yeah.
My Best Friend's Wedding,
Okay.
and The Wedding Planner, all from around this era. Wedding Planner sucks.
We talked about watching that the other day, and I was like, I'm not watching this. That's Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah, it does not hold up.
Is that Jennifer Lopez?
Yes. It's a bad movie.
Yeah.
My Best Friend's Wedding is a masterpiece.
Which one is that?
That's, what's her face? Eat, Pray, Love.
Julia Roberts.
It's Julia Roberts, her titular best friend. It's her male friend. They were like, they dated in college, but they didn't work out. And so they've just been best friends ever since. He calls her out of the blue and says, I'm getting married this weekend. Can you come, be there and like be my maid of honor or whatever?
Yeah, yeah.
And she realizes that she's in love with him.
Dylan McDermott. Dermot Mulroney.
Dermot Mulroney. Anyway, that movie holds up. Here's my point though, is that in all 3 of these films, and I think even in the J-Lo music video we watched after Wedding Planner, if there was
You guys are really going on a journey the other night.
If there was a computer on the screen, it was running macOS. In all of these movies.
Wow, even then, huh?
There's a plot point even where Julia Roberts is like, I need to go get this off my PowerBook.
Yeah, she says PowerBook?
She literally says PowerBook, yeah.
Wow. Huh.
So I'm like, this got me thinking, like, were they just like funneling money into these movies to get the spot?
Exposure. Maybe.
Sarah
probably.
she keeps rolling her eyes at me because I'm like, hey, that's OS 9.
She looks at you and says, what are the words that just came out of your mouth?
She's like, okay, I married this man on purpose.
Yeah. This was a choice.